Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 16 ballets I couldn't live without. I'm sure you have 16 that you can't live without, and I'm really interested to know what they are. One of the things about ballet that's so interesting is that it has a somewhat, low rent reputation in the world of classical music. It's like tutus and dancy people and silly plots and a lot of pantomime, with people going like this and me like that, and sticking their feet up and, Anyway, for all the incredible artistry that goes into it, and it's amazing. It's one of the great, along with opera, one of the great theatrical forms. And I think the ability to convey emotion and meaning without words, just through music and motion, is really an extraordinary thing. I mean, just psychologically, it's an extraordinary thing. But I also did have the worst date of my life going into the ballet, actually. I got set up with a girl. I was in high school, I was in high school. It was college, pardon me. But I mean, totally humorless, absolutely humorless. And the opera was Le Bayadère, with Gelsey Kirkland was dancing, back in the days when she was like on crack. And let me tell you, her feet never hit the floor. It was unbelievable. She was like, and Patrick Bissell and they're all dead. And it was very sad. But I mean, it was John Lanchbury's arrangement of Minkus's score with lots of harps and glockenspiels slogging around, and the plot was, oh my goodness. Okay, so yes, sometimes ballet does deserve the derision with which it is loaded. And anyway, this particular person I was with thought that, it was completely lacking in irony, so it didn't go well. But forget my own personal experience with that particular aspect of ballet. The fact of the matter is that particularly in the 20th century, some of the very greatest composers wrote ballets, and the greatest music, the most important music, was ballet music. It was music for the dance. Why? Because it involved the emancipation of rhythm. Rhythm, which is one of the great discoveries of 20th century classical music. Of course, other cultures had always had rhythm, very complicated rhythm, but not the European classical tradition until modern ballet composers got their hands on it and gave it a good shake. So here are 16 absolutely glorious ballets that just make me perspire whenever I hear them. Well, everything makes me perspire, but that really thrill me. Let's say this way, send chills down my spine whenever I hear them, because they really are extraordinary. Number one, Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake. I mean, come on, it's the ultimate classical ballet, right? I mean, isn't it? I mean, really? By general consensus, it is not Tchaikovsky's greatest ballet. That's Sleeping Beauty, but I mean, Swan Lake has the tunes you can't forget, everywhere from, the big apotheosis to the dance of the annoying little swanlets, they get linked together and do their thing. It's so beautiful. My God, it's beautiful. It just knocks my socks off. It really does. And I could listen to the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing. Tchaikovsky himself was a little bit ambivalent about it because, it was produced in a version which was not his original version. And for many, many, many years, nobody even heard the original version. But now, thank God we do. And I'm happy. Very, very happy. It's an extraordinary work. Next, Roussel, Bacchus and Ariane. Gosh, that's hot. Speaking of rhythm, wow, is that powerful? And the bacchanal at the end is just amazing, absolutely amazing, and it's totally symphonic. I mean, you can listen to it. It's in two pieces. The two suites embody Act 1 and Act 2, but it's only 40 minutes long, so it's essentially a symphony, and you could and should play the whole thing. I do not know why this piece does not get performed in toto in concert. It is a perfect second half piece with an amazing climax. I mean, so there you go. But it's thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. Ravel, the Mother Goose ballet, the complete ballet. Now, since I'm going one per composer, you don't have to. This is your selection, just as this is my selection. I mean, when I did concertos, I got all this horror. I can't believe you left out Rachmaninoff. Well, how could you, dare you? How could it be representative? I never said it was representative. I said it was my selection, my favorites, the ones I can't live without. I can live without Rachmaninoff's concertos. I can't live without the symphonic dances. That's another story. Or the Vespers, which a lot of you had on your list. So let's just be clear. It's your list. You do whatever you want with it, as long as it fits the category, up to 16 of them. Ravel Mother Goose is just enchanting. The last movement, the fairy garden. I mean, is there anything in the universe more beautiful? There's something so fulfilling about the piece. It's written for a chamber orchestra with these gossamer textures. It's beautiful. And, for those of you who say, oh, how could you leave out Daphnis and Chloe? Well, that's how. It was easy. It really was. Next, Glazunov, The Seasons. Glazunov was an amazing ballet composer. There are three major ballets. There's Raymonda, which is the big classical one. And then there are two one-actors, basically, The Seasons and something called Lady Soubrette, or Les Surprises d'Amour, which is also wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. In fact, I was thinking of popping that one in, except that the truth is, I know The Seasons much better because it's been recorded much more frequently. But the other one, Les Surprises d'Amour, it ends with this fricassee thing, with this wonderful tune. Da 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 da. It's just good stuff. I mean, he was so knowledgeable about, dance types and how to create rhythms that impel motion. And The Seasons is another. It's really like a tone poem. It really is. In fact, a bunch of you had ballets in the tone poem section because so many of these works are played in concert. And of course, that's perfectly legitimate because they are tone poems. I mean, they may be, they're choreographic symphonies and danceable tone poems and choreographic thingies. And, composers like to mix genres, and that's perfectly fine. That doesn't make them any less wonderful. Delibes, Coppélia. Oh, my goodness, it's got the mazurka. Oh, the mazurka, which you get to hear 450 times. I mean, that mazurka is worth the price of admission. Oh, good Lord. I mean, again, anybody who could come up with that tune. Tchaikovsky was a big admirer of Delibes, and rightly so, because the music doesn't have any of that sort of, generic trashy quality of early 19th century French ballet. Well, that's what people say about it. The more you listen to it, the less trashy it gets, to be honest with you, because there's like wonderful stuff in these works. Aubert and people like that, But boy, oh boy, Coppélia, go for it. Another classical ballet that's stunning. It's just full of absolutely stunning music. Now, it's like opera. There's a lot of willful suspension of disbelief in these pieces, right? Because you have to get past the fact that they're not talking. They're dancing and pointing and gesticulating. And just like in opera, they're singing everything. So I have very little patience for people who mock these things because of the failure of their own imaginations. When you go to the theater, the whole point was to be fantastical, to take you outside yourself, to let you leave behind the disgusting quotidian existence that you were slogging through every day, especially in the 19th century, when there was no deodorant, no toilet paper. I mean, existence was disgusting. And so, to go to the theater and just forget about all of that, not a bad idea, is it? Anyway, Noväk. Oh, my goodness. Nikotina. I've been talking about this piece for years. I wish someone would make a new recording of it. Goodness gracious, it's just glorious. The only one out is on Superfun with, who is it? Gilek. Whatever his name is, the conductor, František Gilek. And it's a fantastic performance with the Brno Orchestra. But the piece is a screaming masterpiece. It really is, with wordless choir, all that stuff, a big orchestra, and it's funny. It's about a snuff-addicted monk whose addiction is personified by the prima ballerina. Her name is Nikotina, and they undertake a series of adventures. And golly gee, it's fun, and it's written with such mastery by Noväk, who is a brilliant composer, a wonderful composer. It deserves to be so much better known. And after Nikotina, there's Vaughan-Williams, Job. Well, Job is obviously quite serious because the story is the book of Job. But more to the point, this work is widely regarded as Vaughan-Williams' orchestral masterpiece. I mean, I'm on board with that completely. It is a work of unutterable nobility. It's just glorious, glorious music. It actually has its humorous moments. I mean, Satan is a little bit of a comical character. He's got a xylophone, so you know that he's laughing at us. But the piece is so beautiful and so emotionally true. Wow, what an extraordinary thing. And it's also symphonic length. It's 40 minutes long, about that length. Of course, it ends quietly. That's the kiss of death. So put it on the first half of the program. It should be played every 10 minutes. It's incredible, glorious, as is Dukas, La Péri, with its introductory fanfare. I love that introductory fanfare. Oh, just terrific tunes. But the ballet itself, once it gets hopping, it's only 20 minutes long or so, is a French Impressionist masterpiece. It's every bit as good as The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I mean, remember, Dukas wrote one of everything. He wrote one opera, one piano sonata, one symphony, one overture, one ballet, and then destroyed everything else. And actually, some of the stuff that he thought he destroyed, his early stuff is around. And if you've heard it, he should have destroyed that too. He knew what he was really good at, and he let La Péri survive. I think he didn't want to. I think that was slated for destruction too. But by then, he was really genius. It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful, and not as well known as it deserves to be. Again, Aaron Copland. Well, at least his populist ballets are well known, and I picked Rodeo. Rodeo was a landmark in American ballet theater. It actually was. It's about a cowgirl who gets to compete with the guys, which is good enough plot as any. And the music is so much fun. Oh yeah. I mean, it was the beef commercial. Remember, real food for real people, or whatever that thing was. But the style is Stravinsky goes Western, with American folk tunes built in, and gosh golly, it's both contemporary and rhythmic and romantic nationalist and all of those things all at once, and just great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. Easy to listen to, but fun and consistently captivating. But then again, all of Copland's ballet music is like that. Even the dance panels and the late stuff. I mean, he was a fabulous ballet composer. These works are genius. Absolutely brilliant. Next, Sullivan Mackerras, Pineapple Paul. That's Charles Mackerras's fandango of tunes from various Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. Now, this is a pastiche ballet. There are a lot of those, a ton of them. The ballet world has always either adapted things that weren't ballets at all to the dance, as Balanchine always did, like with Bizet's Symphony in C, for example, which became a ballet. You could take a complete work, Stravinsky's Violin Concerto, and turn it into a ballet. Or you could take music by other people, as Britten did with Rossini's Matinée Musicale, or Rossini did with La Boutique Respighi did with Rossini with La Boutique Fantasque, these are wonderful, wonderful works, and great ways to get to know tunes from some famous people, especially tunes from works they didn't know. I mean, Thomas Beecham made a career out of pasting together ballets from Handel. I mean, Walton did Bach, The Wise Virgins. I mean, Beecham did Handel and Bath and some of these other things. He did like a whole bunch of them based on Handel. The Gods Go a Begging, and there were about 5 or 6 of them. Actually, that would be an interesting recording project to do all the Beecham pastiche ballets. But Respighi did them, and this one, Pineapple Paul, is just delicious. It's just one of the great creations of ballet fundum. Just entertaining and enjoyable tunes, wonderfully assembled, and God, I play it in the car a lot because it's just so much fun to listen to. It passes time incredibly well, and it's also about 40 minutes long. It would make a great second half piece. You could just play the whole thing all the way through. Everybody would love it. One of the most famous pastiche ballets, of course, is Gaîté Parisienne, which is not on my list, even though it has the can-can. I'm sorry. But it's an incredible piece, and it really deserves to be on somebody's list, so maybe someone else will throw it there. Next, Pierné, Cydalise et le Chèvre-pied. This is another amazing ballet from Paris, the first decades of the 20th century. It was some period for ballet. Why? Because Diaghilev and the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo, well, they later went to Monte Carlo, but the Ballet Russe were hanging around doing all of this modern music and all of these amazing pieces. And they had this unbelievable stable of composers that was writing for them. And every premiere was just an event. Cydalise et le Chèvre-pied is a neoclassical ballet. Based in classical Greece, which makes sense, with incredibly beautiful set pieces, within it. It also has a wordless choir, and it's big. It's big, but it's not at all like Daphnis and Chloe. I mean, it doesn't sound like anybody else. It really doesn't, but it is immaculately sculpted. It's put together with unbelievable finesse. And, like so much French ballet music, it just has this high sheen of beauty in everything that it does. You can't imagine one note being out of place or changed. And the complete ballet, which is very hard to find now, was only recorded once. Usually you get the suites. And the suites are lovely if that's all you can find. But if you can find the complete ballet, it was on the timpani label. With I think the Luxembourg Philharmonic. I have it sitting right over here somewhere. I mean, I just can't put my hand on it without, looking a little bit, but it's right there. I keep it nearby in case the mood overtakes me. You really need to hear it. Then, of course, we've got Stravinsky. You got to do Stravinsky, and I got to do the Rite of Spring because the Rite of Spring is simply the most, one of the handful of truly iconic 20th century works. And as I said, it was a ballet. I mean, there are other people who think other Stravinsky works are greater, like Les Noces, for example, and some other things. But, and Stravinsky wrote so many ballets. I mean, there's Apollo, there's Orpheus, there's Danse Concertante, there's just a gazillion of these things. But they are Agon, his last ballet. There's no shortage of Stravinsky ballets. Then, of course, Petrushka, the Firebird. I mean, every single one of them was an event, basically. I mean, just a very, very serious event in the history of musical aesthetics, and also in the history of the medium. And they are great. And the Rite of Spring is, I mean, come on. How can you not include the Rite of Spring? People say, how could you not include Rachmaninoff in the concertos? Well, that was easy. Leaving out the Rite of Spring, that's not so easy. Just can't do it. Can't do it. I can't do it. I love the piece. It's not because it's that important. It's because I adore it, because it's such a slap in the face, a breath of fresh air, the shock of the new, and it hasn't worn off. Not a bit. It's just amazing. Then we've got Bizet, Shchedrin, the Carmen Suite, also known as the Carmen Ballet. That's another pastiche ballet, but one of such genius. I mean, he took all these tunes from Carmen and also from the Pearl Fishers and other places and arranged them for strings and a huge heap of percussion for his wife. Actually, it's a solo ballet, I believe. What was her last name? Plisetskaya. And she was an extraordinary ballerina, the prima ballerina of the Bolshoi. And Shchedrin put this thing together, and Arthur Fiedler discovered it for the Boston Pops and made a recording for RCA, and the rest is history, because the tunes are incredible. But so is the arrangement. It is so brilliant. It's another one of those ballet things you could just like plonk it on and listen to the whole thing all the way through. It should not just be a Pops piece. It should be performed, like I said, in place of some tedious Bruckner symphony, you could do the Carmen suite. Now, wouldn't that be nice? I think so. I mean, not that Bruckner symphonies are tedious, but they're likely to be, the way that they get played these days as often as not. Whereas this, I have a feeling this could tolerate any kind of moronic conducting and still come out sounding fresh as a rose, smelling fresh as a rose, sounding fresh as a whatever, spring shower, whatever you want to call it. It's incredible. Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella, are probably the last great Russian classical ballets. Well, Shchedrin wrote a few of those too. I mean, there's some pretty good ones there, but they really are in the Tchaikovsky tradition. And Romeo and Juliet is, it's established a life entirely away from the stage in the form of the suites and in the form of the Knight's Dance. Doom ba doom ba da 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 dum ba dum ba dum ba. It was going boom boom boom. I mean, it was a perfume ad. It was a car ad. It was a TV, everything ad. I mean, that particular number. But even so, I mean, the balcony scene and the folk dances, the warring Montagues and Capulets, it is incredible to consider that it was premiered in Czechoslovakia, in Brno, because the Bolshoi rejected it as undanceable. And maybe it was. It was, they weren't doing Stravinsky at the Bolshoi either, in those days of the 1930s. And they had a very conservative ballet tradition. And it was only until it became popular elsewhere and people realized just how fantastic the music was, that the Bolshoi finally accepted it for performance, which just goes to show you. But it's one of the extreme ballet masterpieces. And again, there's a lot of internal repetition if you listen to the whole thing, but I don't care because the tunes are so good. You can either listen to the suites or you can play the whole thing, and either way, you're going to be just as far ahead. Knudaya Rizire. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I don't care. Look at the name down on the list. He was the great 20th century Danish ballet guy, and he wrote some amazing ballet music, which was recorded by Da Capo. It's all out there, thank God. I mean, there's Benzene, which is like about, the joy of, life at a gas station and things like that. But the one I chose is called Moon Reindeer. Menarenen, I don't know, pronounce it. I don't care. I can't pronounce his name. What difference does it make? It's gorgeous. Wonderful music in the best classical French style of people like Roussel and Ravel and Pierné and, all these people we've been talking about. You should hear Rizire. And there's like 3 or 4 discs of his stuff. And he wrote beautiful symphonies that are light and fluffy. He was really a composer of the French school, which is interesting for Denmark, of course, because it's a very heavily Germanic influenced type country place thing. And so his whole style was recognizably 20th century ballet russe, and it's fantastic stuff. I cannot recommend Rizire strongly enough. I've done some videos about him. All of these recordings are reviewed at classicstoday.com. You can go and read those reviews and check him out, because he's a composer you're really, really going to be happy to get to know. And then last but not least, Lou Harrison's Solstice. Now, Solstice, I think it's a septet, if I'm not mistaken. It's written for a trumpet, an oboe, a couple of cellos, a double bass, a celesta, and a tack piano with thumbtacks in its felt things. We used to do that when I was in high school. We had a piano in the student lounge, a grand piano. We didn't put thumbtacks in the hammers because the administration would have killed us. But we used empty aluminum soda cans which achieved much the same result. You just placed them along the strings, didn't hurt anything. But it made a harpsichordy, twangy kind of sound, which is what he has. Solstice is a mythological ballet about mythology that I think they just invented. It's about, moon bulls and dog things, and I don't know what it's doing. I don't care. It's Harrison at his most East-West fusion-y style. Incredible. The opening with the flute and just simple melodies and engaging rhythms, and this tiny ensemble, which is capable of just an extraordinary amount of color. Really, really a phenomenal work. For small forces, it's one of those modern dance masterpieces, and Harrison wrote a few of those too. So there you have it, my friends. 16 ballets I couldn't live without. I'm very interested to know, what is your list of ballets that you couldn't live without? Keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.